So we're going to learn the G major scale today. Usually the first scale that people learn is the C major scale, where it's all the white notes from C to C. And oftentimes G major is the second scale they learn, because we go from absolutely no black notes to having one black note. So for the G scale, I'll just start here for right now. Here's G and here's G. It's just like C. It's all white notes except for one black note. And it happens to be the seventh note of the scale. So people tend to have a love-hate relationship when they're first learning the G scale, because it feels so simple. It's in your hand. The fingering is a traditional white scale fingering, where it's 1, 2, 3. You tuck under, and then you play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, like I said, once people learn the C scale and they get comfortable with that fingering, the 1, 2, 3, tuck under, and keep going up, then they're excited to learn the second scale. So the G is because it has just one F sharp, it's usually the next scale that's taught. So because that F sharp is the seventh note of the scale, this is where I think people get a little confident and comfortable. So you're chugging along. You tuck under, just like you did with C. You're a pro. You cross, you tuck your thumb under, then you flip your hand over. And then at this point, we've forgotten to include the F sharp. So instead of putting our fourth finger on F sharp where it's supposed to be, we just, a lot of times will, when you're first learning, you just keep it on the white notes, just like C, and you end up playing this. So when you play the scale, what you think you're playing the G scale, you forget about that F sharp, just because it's the seventh note and you're feeling confident. So to backtrack a little bit, remember you can figure out any major scale pattern using whole steps. You start with the first note, the tonic, and then you go up a whole step, go up another whole step, go up a half step, go up a whole step, another whole step, and another whole step. And so that's why we have to play that F sharp instead of an F, because an F would be a half step. The F sharp is the whole step. And then we finish with the half step on G. So those are your notes, all white notes except for that F sharp. So as you're practicing, don't let your fingers get overly confident. Make your fourth finger remember to put it on the F sharp. So the whole time you're playing, because you've got the rest of the scale, it's all white notes. So as you're playing, just think F sharp, fourth finger on F sharp. So what you do, you play the first three notes, tuck your thumb under. Now here's the challenge. Play your C with your thumb. Now you're going to challenge yourself by moving the rest of your hand in place automatically, including your fourth finger on that F sharp. So you flip over, and you can really challenge yourself by just playing all of them at once, which of course doesn't sound great, but that's not the point. The point is that we need our hands to memorize, or fingers to memorize, where they need to go. So to show that again, you play the first three notes and tuck under, flip and play all of them at once. If you can do that, and you can do it that fast, you can easily play the G scale correctly. And so remember, when you're doing a scale, each finger has its own job. And so, just like whatever job you may be doing, say you're washing the dishes, well, you're not scrubbing the floor while you're washing the dishes. So likewise, when you're doing the G scale, your thumb has a job for the G scale that's different for the C scale. In the C scale, your thumb's job is to play C. Just like when you're washing dishes, you wash the dishes, you don't scrub the floor. So when you move to the G scale, it's a new job. So now your thumb is playing G. Okay, so your fingering, your thumb will always play G, and so your fingering is after you tuck under after your third finger, you flip up, and then coming back down, each finger is responsible for those same notes. 4 on F sharp, 3 on the E, your second finger on D, just like it was coming up, your thumb on C, cross over with your middle finger. Remember, it's not your second finger, it's your middle finger. And then finish up with your second finger on A and your thumb on G. So that's the right hand fingering, and I have a whole sheet of scales here, and here's the G major scale. And I have it written out so that it's easy for you to follow with all the finger numbers. And in the PDF, I wrote the G scale starting here. And unless you're being graded on a specific, what G are you supposed to play when you play the scale, it doesn't matter where you play your G scale. I usually either play it here or here for my right hand. So going off on the PDF, and the PDF you can actually find for free at pianoclassroom.com. So make sure you get that. It's easy. It's nice to have the visual of the actual notes and the video, and you know, you can practice on your own and stuff like that. So put your thumb on G if you want to follow the exact notes of what's on the PDF. Your thumb will be on the G that's above middle C, and then you go up to this G. So your left hand fingering, and I'll put the left hand right here for now. The left hand is a traditional 5-finger, or a traditional white note scale fingering. So you start with your first 5 notes, or sorry, your first 5 fingers on the first 5 notes: G, A, B, C, D. So those are your first 5 notes. And then once you play your thumb, your middle finger is going to cross over your third finger. Your middle finger is going to cross over to the E. And then your second finger is going to go up to the F sharp, and your thumb plays G. So to do that again, and to use that same kind of technique that we use for the right hand to practice getting the F sharp, what you can do is play your scale. And as soon as you cross over, slide your thumb a little bit up so that both your third finger and your second finger go on the correct notes. Remember, third finger goes on E and second finger goes on F sharp. So you can practice that. You play all 5. And that's not how we play the scale. Obviously, we play one note at a time. But if your fingers know where to go, then you just push them down. It requires much less work when you already have created the muscle memory. So all 5 notes, and then your thumb. And so now I'll play the scale like normal. And just like the right hand, when you're coming back down, your thumb's responsible in this case for the G. So it doesn't get to play the E, doesn't get to play a B. In your left hand, the thumb plays the G and also the D. So we have 1, 2, 3 coming down, tuck under, and then finish up with all 5 fingers. Sorry, all 4 fingers. So we start at the bottom and we go to the top. A lot of times we practice just going up and do it again. And you don't have to go that fast. You can go faster, you can go slower. Once you're comfortable with that, you start at the top and run from top to bottom a couple times. Or for a week. I mean, it doesn't have to, you don't need to expect yourself to just whip this out in a couple minutes. It takes time to practice this and develop muscle memory, and it's perfectly valid, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So practice going from top to bottom. In fact, usually for all of us across the board, I can pretty much say if people are struggling with scales, it's not going up. It's when they start coming down, especially when hands are together. Because we practice going up a lot, and then by the time we're coming down the scale, our fingers, you know, our brain, everything gets a little mushy or muddy. So practice starting at the top and going down a bunch. Do it again. Do it again until you're really comfortable. And then at this point, putting hands together, I'm just going to forewarn you, it's like the C major scale. When you put your hands together, it's kind of like multitasking to opposite, even though you're playing keys on the piano, it's like multitasking to opposite activities, because as you're playing, your right hand thumb tucks under while your pointer finger stays in your left hand. Then your thumb in your left hand plays while your right hand flips over. See, that's why we created that muscle memory. Now your right hand just keeps going its merry way while your left hand crosses over. The only nice thing is at least the third fingers are playing together here. And then they finish up. But now coming back down, so I'll start on G again, coming back down, now the left hand gets to lead. It gets to tuck under first, but the right hand still plays its second finger. And then the right hand thumb will play C while the left hand flips over. And now the left hand stays put, the right hand plays the third finger on B nicely. To make it nice, it's both third fingers. So both third fingers play together, and then you finish after the rest of your hand flips over. There's a lot going on to play a scale, and remembering that there's that F sharp there, which is why if we start trying to play hands together too soon, and you'll know it, and it's, again, nothing wrong with you, it's just that your brain is seriously on overload when you're learning scales. So when you are finding yourself forgetting that F sharp, or your fingerings are getting all, mixed up or whatever, you've probably put your hands together playing it too soon. So to play your G scale, go nice and slow, giving your brain the time to process everything. Cross over. Remember the F sharp. Don't get in the habit of playing the wrong note and then fixing it. Don't add an extra note to the scale. Play the correct one. And then G. And then get used to starting at the top and coming down. I even have my students actually do the scales backwards, especially if they're struggling coming down. So I have them start up here as if this is the first note, starting on your right hand pinky. Have them loop from top to bottom instead. That way it just changes the way your brain is thinking about the scales. So either way, practice hands separately first just to create that muscle memory so that when you put your hands together, it feels a little more successful. And if at any time in your practice, it just starts falling apart where you're doing, for example, something like this, where your left hand is trying to cross over in very interesting ways. Just pull back your right hand, run through your left hand by itself several times till you know you've got it, then try it again. So again, the G scale. That's the G major scale, and if you want that PDF, go to pianoclassroom.com. On the PDF, to keep all of the notes in the staff so you're not having to worry about ledger lines, I actually wrote, like I said, the right hand starting right here, but the left hand, that G, that bottom line in the bass clef, is actually down here. There's nothing wrong with you playing your scale like this. Usually we play it where they're only one octave apart, like this. I just wrote it on I made the PDF this way so that it's easy for you to read, so you're not having to deal with ledger lines. You're just here to get the fingering and the correct notes. You can move your hand an octave without any problem. So good luck on your G scale. Don't forget that F sharp, and have fun practicing.